coming up.
So it's a voice-centric service, and now with the broadband transition, we are opening a possibility to move from voice-centric operation to information-centric operation. With AI, we can automate all of this to happen in a matter of seconds. This is the kind of vision I have in longer term for critical communication. And there, obviously, AI is the enabler. Without that, it would remain forever as science fiction. The paradigm has moved from being technology limited to being culture limited. The users need to have trust on the service. If they have doubts, then the whole thing goes completely in vain.
Welcome to Making Waves, the podcast where we explore the technology, people, and real-world challenges shaping the world of critical communications. From PMR radio to next-gen broadband, we talk to industry experts and frontline users to uncover the innovations, pain points, and decisions to define performance under pressure. If it keeps teams connected when it matters most, we'll be talking about it here. I'm Stuart with my co-host Lona.
Hello.
And this is Making Waves. So, Lona, what do we have today?
Joining us today is Tero Pesonen, Vice Chair of the Critical Communications Association and Chair of the Critical Communications Broadband Group. At the upcoming Critical Communications World in London, Tero will be leading several key sessions, including the group's Focus Forum and Masterclass. These sessions are designed to provide deep insights for government, operators, and agencies navigating the transition from narrowband, voice-centric TETRA systems to mission-critical broadband over 4G and 5G. Tero, welcome to the podcast. Before we start, could you just briefly tell us a bit about yourself and your roles in the Critical Broadband Group?
Oh, thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. Some words, maybe professional words. I joined this wonderful critical communications sector back in '97 when it was the early days of TETRA. The task was to try to make it a global interoperable multi-vendor technology and standard. And I think that with that, we as a community have been very, very successful. Then the next task was and has been to bring the world together in the broadband world, utilizing 3GPP technologies. And that's the ongoing task. And for that, I've been leading the Critical Communications Broadband Group in TCCA, with the ambition to bring the entire value chain together, since, if any part in the value chain is not benefiting, it's not a chain anymore. So that's pretty much about me.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, Tero, for that introduction. Let's see if we can get into it then. So let's look at CCW, Critical Communications World. It's in London this year. It's 16th to 18th of June. The theme this year is about uniting the sector and working together to enhance the ecosystem. So let me just touch on that to open up the episode. In terms of the theme, just explain to us a little bit why, in your view, is the ecosystem collaboration becoming such a crucial part of mission-critical broadband as we focus so much on it at this CCW?
Well, let me set the scene for you and for us here. There are over 7 billion consumers out there. And then in the all the critical communication sector users all together in the world, if we are generous, then we might be talking about 0.1 billion. Which means that we are a niche, and in particular when we are using the 4G, 5G, and eventually 6G technologies, which are shared with all the other sectors in the world, we really absolutely have to have one common voice. So that's really the essence on one side. Then the other side is that obviously we are there in many, many ways in saving lives. And it really makes sense that we share best practices. We try to do our share because it's our ethical and moral responsibility as human beings contributing to the best of the mankind.
Good. Yeah. So building on the idea of collaboration and ecosystems, we see public safety communications are undergoing a major shift from narrowband systems to mission-critical broadband. From what you're hearing, what are the biggest challenges organizations face in making that transition?
Well, this is a society level. If we look most of all the, say, nationwide public safety networks. The challenges are different. So if you are running an airport or a port or bus transit system, the challenges are somewhat different. But in particular, if we look at the nationwide networks from a national perspective, I would say that I would divide the challenges in three baskets, really. So the first basket is the technology itself. So does it exist? Is it interoperable? Is it multi-vendor? Does it meet the user requirements and needs? Is it stable, and do we know what to do with it? That's includes the standardization and so on. The second basket is more a national one, or in European case, EU level basket. It's the environment. It's the regulatory legal landscape. It's the question of shared responsibility, who is to do what, since typically with broadband, the value chain and the players, stakeholders are somewhat different than in the traditional dedicated networks. There's also questions like, okay, who's financing this and how? What are the obligations and so on? What's the role, the mechanisms for rollout and maintenance and these kind of things? That's the environmental challenge bit. If you have managed to get these two right, then you can then enter the third one, which is the most important one, and everything is completely in way if this doesn't work out, and that's the users. The users need to have trust on the service. Services one is needs to bring added value. They need to feel the broadband service as we discuss about that as their own, and they need to take the effort to rewrite their standard operating procedures. But if they have doubts, then the whole thing goes completely in vain. So those are the things. So there are challenges in all of these three baskets. There are challenges for engineers, there are challenges for lawyers and politicians, and there are a lot of challenges for the users themselves.
That's a lot to take in, because those three areas, the technology, does it even exist? The environment, so regulation, law, sovereign and beyond, EU in our case, and then when you say you've got both of those right, the users, they have to trust in this new system. Does it do what the old system did? Does it have all of the features? Is it going to protect me? Is it going to make my life easier? That's a huge amount to try and pull it all together. Let me go down one of the paths here. If we look at you're the chairman of the Critical Communications Broadband Group, so let's look at that one. Your group drives the development and adoption of broadband standards for the users who cooperate in a mission-critical or business-critical environment. Taking that, along that path, we see different things growing, and some of that will be to do with edge technology and AI. How are you seeing these components becoming more important in the generation of the new networks? How do you see these things impacting those users?
If we look at the AI, I believe it is really revolutionary, and it is revolutionary in all layers. So it's impacting. It has a role in pretty much everything. Now, the way I see AI, it's kind of like a super fast and a companion that never gets tired. Okay, it's not faultless, at least for now, but it's super fast and it doesn't get tired, so it just can keep on going. Now, if you think of the network layer, for instance, it can bring an enormous amount of things in terms of resilience. Now, already today, we have really good network management. We notice that maybe some site goes down. We see that under that site, we had public safety users, so they have lost now a connection. And in theory, we could set up another site or or beam in terms of 5G, beamform something. So on paper, we can do all kinds of things to reestablish connection. The problem today is that it takes number of hours, and that's not really helpful for a firefighter in a burning building. With AI, we can automate all of this to happen in a matter of seconds. That's the difference of this super fast companion that doesn't get tired. So it's almost like rule-based or factually rule-based, but it can do it and understand that this is now happening, what to do about, what kind of actions to take on dependent on different kind of feeds. So that's one area. Another area maybe closer to the users then are the capabilities in services, data fusion, information creation even. If we think of narrowband services, and I must underline here that, for instance, TETRA is a wonderful technology. It's doing exactly what it has been designed to do. So it's super good in group communication. It's extremely good in messaging. So it's really performing and delivering what it has been designed for. Then again, it's not awfully good for the stuff it has not been designed for. So it's a voice-centric service, and now with the broadband transition, we are opening a possibility to move from voice-centric operation to information-centric operation. Some things that I expect from the future, somewhat science fiction today, is that we would be able to decouple information and content generation from the transport to presentation. What I mean with this is, as an example, is that, say again, a firefighter example, the person in command at the site outside gives a command by voice, get out. In the traditional system, this is voice generated, and it will be heard in a speaker of the receivers in their group. So that's the from mouth to ear senses, speaking and hearing senses used. Now, in the future, how about if this information generated by voice is then actually presented to the receivers through the sense which they can receive in the best possible way, say in haptic, so that the firefighter's coat starts pushing the person back if the person is in a super loud environment, otherwise occupied with other signals and so on. And this, again, in between, requires AI to understand what was the content created so that it can be represented as information, suitable information in the other end. Furthermore, what I do expect extremely much to happen in the coming years is machine-to-machine communication and machine-to-human, or actually AI-to-human communication based on the sensor fusion from the all kinds of things that the machines and sensors have gathered, in particular if there's an ethical, moral decision to be made. But this is the kind of vision I have in longer term for critical communication. And there, obviously, AI is the enabler. Without that, it would remain forever as science fiction.
You're in a group that's probably better positioned than most to take a view. You say it's science fiction in the not too distant future, but probably the landscape you can see clearly more than others. What kind of time frame do you imagine this could be?
Well, I think that, quite a lot of what I've said is technically possible today. So we have what I find quite inspiring is that we have moved from the paradigm has moved from being technology limited to being culture limited. So first of all, what can we imagine? Secondly, what do we perceive as correct and right? And then again, like always, what can we trust? And I would think that the generation which is now entering the fire academy, police academy, and so on, they are the ones that will make this real. Whether they do it in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, difficult for me to make a guess, but I'm sure that that we will start seeing in smaller forms here and there applications of this kind of the ideology and thinking in the next couple of years, and then in longer term those will converge together as a full complete standard operating procedure.
I think that's a really nice way of framing it in terms of timescale. What you're essentially saying is this technology in its components exists, it's bringing it together, and we have already had the first people going through the academy of whichever first responder that they are aligned with will be the ones using that, and that kind of brings it into a kind of reality of how close we are to that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, looking ahead, as the industry begins to explore 5G advanced and even the roadmap towards 6G, what capabilities could redefine public safety communications over the next decade?
First of all, I would like to bring us to the society level, because this is a big thing related when, as you mentioned, 6G. Big thing that we in TCC have been driving is that it's really important in a society to recognize that we are already today dependent on mobile communication. Whereas 4G, 5G, and so on in 3GPP have not been designed to be always available. They have been designed to be best effort services. So it's been really a heaven for an engineer that you can get to do all kinds of cool stuff, but it works when it works. Whereas if we look at the dominant era of 6G, which is going to be 2040s, just imagine how dependent the societies are on mobile communication by then, if we are already dependent today. Think if your mobile phone doesn't work, you don't have multi-factor authentication, so you don't do banking, you probably can't read your email. Well, that sounds like a holiday, really. And in a 6G era, this will be much more. So the first thing we are driving as 6G is the one we can influence. That's in the early phase of standardization today. Is that 6G has to be the key criteria of 6G has to be trust. It has to provide trust throughout the society. How it translates, it means that the 6G needs to be resilient, it needs to be available, and with that, it needs to be reliable at all times. And we as public safety and critical communication sector, we are the ones that are showing what the need is, that all the other sectors can understand it, because the entire society, be it enterprises or consumers, will be needing that. So that's the baseline. Remembering that in our business, connection is truly the lifeline. So that's where we start. And then when we move further into actual features for us, then starting from connectivity. Connectivity everywhere, all the time, for all with the right capabilities. That means on one side, the regular device to base station, but it also means device to device over 5G side link, where if you are outside the coverage in a basement and you can't see the sky, once you can see the sky, then also non-terrestrial networks type of connectivity, simply to be always connected. Right, so that was the connection bit. Once you then get over the connection bit, then we stop talking about capacity, resilience, ability to ensure that your services work and the information is delivered. On this note, again, coming back to the information-centric operation, the information that has to be delivered through all these connectivities is the same way of working one works every day. Every night and every day, every shift, because your way of working cannot change because of the connectivity. If you are tired, you are afraid, you are exhausted, cognitively occupied, and your connection changes and you're supposed to work in some other way, it's not going to happen. It has to be the same way. So these are the basic requirements we have, and we see these are being delivered. So there's a lot of things happening with 5G and 6G in terms of resilience on this connectivity side. But there are also quite interesting new things which are challenging our ways of working in things like integrated sensing and communication, ISAC. That's a detection where the network and the devices become sensors. It's an entire world of new opportunities. There are a lot of things related to massive communication. The entire immersive communication things like multimodal, XR, AR, VR combined together. Those are, again, things that I think that those who have just entered the academies need to challenge us as a community, the entire value chain, the industry. What does it mean to do public safety communication, critical communication? Why are the taxpayers paying for the existence of these services, and how can they do their job in the best possible way, including the native AI for sure?
That's quite a picture you're painting there. Let's explore it a little bit more. I mean, we've talked about the future of networks, and we've talked about the different ways of working, and the people coming through now will have a different ideas about how they're going to work. Let's look at the within a kind of broadband frame here. The networks are going to change in the next 10 years, and we will already see that 6G is a reality in 10 years' time, for sure. There will be 6G deployments out there already. Give us a flavor, given what you've said already in terms of how we can change the way that we work, what the difference is, as you understand it, between what we are seeing today, narrowband, P25, TETRA and others, on the one hand, LTE 5G today, and what we could expect to get from 6G, because the quantum leap of throughput is going to be enormous. Can you give us a flavor of what we could kind of expect? Also, I imagine networks are going to become much more intelligent at the edge as well. So what could we imagine from these kind of changes in terms of quantum leap?
Well, what will remain is that fire will be hot. Traffic accidents are dangerous. Criminals are breaking the law. So some of the fundamentals and basics will stay. We humans are fundamentally the same. Same with our strengths and weaknesses, for sure. 10 years, we would be talking 36, around that time frame. In Europe, we can expect the European critical communication system to be up and running throughout the European Union countries and Schengen countries. European critical communication system, EUCCS, is a network of networks, fundamentally mandating the European Union and Schengen countries to build 3GPP broadband-based public safety, PPDR, or public protection disaster relief service, enabling critical communication users to use their own equipment throughout the EU area in joint supportive missions. And the objective is that first 10 countries join that in 30, then 33, 36. So by 36, we would have this. Now, again, from technology point of view, we are in the 6G era, and we could do a whole lot of stuff. From operational point of view, we have just entered in Europe into this new network. So in all honesty, I believe that most of the field operation is fairly similar as it is today. Fairly similar, because one has to be careful. It's not a reckless thing to go and change everything because it's cool. It's really important to make sure that we know what we are doing. However, soon after that, I believe that the rate of change increases, because from between now and the 36 to 10 years, this is really a transition period when one moves and finds way to move and migrate with the national public safety networks from the narrowband to broadband, and make sure that happens. And looking at my own nation with Virve 2, it's a really difficult job to do. It takes a lot of effort, and you need to focus on the transition program, so you don't have awfully much time, and people don't have bandwidth to accept lots of other operational changes. So I do expect the change rate really to start happening after that. But potentially in smaller cases, in like on an open mine, there one might see fully autonomous operations, and where then the nationwide larger networks can copy services and find those as real operational proofs of concept.
All right. So, Tero, now you have been speaking a lot about broadband, or we have been speaking about broadband today. What is your view on TETRA and the future of TETRA?
I think it's fair to say that the national public safety networks and users are moving from narrowband to broadband, most of all because they want to be able to harvest this information-centric operation. But it has also requirements and things that have had to take place before. Already in the 90s and the early 2000s, we have done a lot of work in Europe to bring people from various siloed dedicated services to common national shared networks, which requires a lot of trust and sharing and a willingness to do that, which enables now the broadband transition. However, if we look throughout the world, there are a lot of industries, there are a lot of countries where there's a really big need to be your own master and control the service exactly. And then on the other hand, from operational point of view, your primary services are voice group call topped with very efficient and reliable messaging services. So I do believe that still in 2050s, TETRA will be sold. There's a market for it. There's a demand for it, because it is really good for what it has been designed for. So I'm looking forward to see continuously also new innovations, and I trust that the TETRA industry will also address maybe issues in terms of spectrum, as spectrum is changing, addressing the possibilities there, and harvesting on the entire experience and competence we have gathered over the last 30 years. So I believe it has a bright future as well.
I'm very pleased to hear you say that, Tero, and it's completely in line with many of the other guests that we have. This whole idea that the narrowband, TETRA or other narrowband technologies are going to be around for an awfully long time. There are many reasons why they exist, and they will continue, therefore, to evolve. So then they are not just a piece of the puzzle, but they're a fairly central core part of the future as well. And of course, in a world where we need resilience, we have to think of more than one technology these days, and that's just good practice. Excellent. Well, we are getting towards the end of our time, Tero, so let me try and do a short recap on what we've touched on here. I should just do another plug for the CCW. It's on the 16th to the 18th of June, and people will get an opportunity to see lots more panels and working groups and discussions, and of course meet all of the manufacturers and everyone associated with the industry will be there. So I encourage everyone to come along, and of course you have a very significant part in that event as well. We've talked today, though, a little bit about the scope of broadband in this area. We've talked about the pillars of the technology needing to exist, the regulatory and national considerations, the environment, in effect. And once you've got those right, you talked about how important it was for the third pillar, the users as well, to trust in the service. We talked a little bit more about the what's happening in 10 years' time, or the future as well, and we've talked very much about we're moving from a voice-centric technology more towards an info-centric way of viewing these networks going forward. And of course, we've talked a lot. It's inevitable. We'll touch on AI. It's what everyone is talking about these days. But there are other elements to the future in terms of moving from these hybrids of, say, TETRA or P25 to 5G to 6G, and everything that goes along with that in terms of the new ways of working. And you've explained quite a lot about that. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time today, Tero. What I would say to anyone listening, if you want to find out more, I'd always encourage people to check out the website, TCCA website. So just go along to tcca.info. Or alternatively, you could check out the LinkedIn site, which is TCCA Critical Communications. So for everyone, if you found that interesting, then why not subscribe? We're available on all the major podcast platforms. And by virtualizing this podcast, we're available on YouTube as well. To make it easy for you, you can just go along to our website for all of the links. Just go along to damcellular.com/podcast. So I just want to say once again, Tero, thank you so much for being on this episode.
Thank you. It has been a great pleasure, and looking forward to success in cooperation.
Thank you very much. And also to my co-host, Lona, thank you very much.
I also want to say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. My name is Stuart. This has been another episode of Making Waves. So until next time, goodbye.